check. Thank you so much for watching the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi, and this is the Thursday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is the live streaming. I talk about Sashiko while I'm doing the Sashiko stitching. Sorry, I have a candy in my mouth. Let me check the audio. Okay, this is good. おはようございます。こんばんは。どうもです。Atsushiです。まだ飴が口の中に入ってるんですけど。ごめんね。サシコライブやっていこうと思います。金曜日の朝。お昼の時は、英語でやります。ほぼほぼ英語でやると思いますが、もし何かしら質問等あれば、日本語で書いておいてもらえると助かります。日本語バージョンは今日の夜、日本時間の金曜日の夜、日本語バージョンのサシコ配信やります。それでは英語の配信をやっていこうと思うんですけど、So this is the live streaming where I want you to bring something for you to stitch as well. It doesn't have to be stitching, it can be knitting or anything, but I will not share anything special, anything specific. I do not plan to teach anything on it. So if you could bring some of your stuff and then stitch together, I would like to make this as a place to stitch together, place to spend time together over the internet. So I don't want to only focus on my stitching. I wanted to make it like a ibasho. Ibasho is the Japanese term for the place to be. I will answer if I receive a request to talk about specific topic, or if I receive any questions, I will talk about it too. But otherwise, I will talk about something that I bring today. I will talk about the recent update about what Sashiko is in Japanese. But if there's any questions, I am here to answer. And I will go back to the stitching too. Okay, let me change the camera so I can stitch. Just a second, okay? Can you say hello, Sakura? No. I'm gonna be here. Are you gonna be here all day? Seriously? Hello. Thank you so much for coming. Please let me know if the audio is too small. Hello, Lisa. Please check my website for the needles and thread. We have only one specific tools to use. We do not use any other needles or thread. There are thread for Sashiko, there are needle for Sashiko, and I do use that. And all the information is already listed on the description. I think. Just let me check. If I have not wrote it, that's a very rude. Yes, everything is on the description. So check the description of this live streaming and you will find out the information for that. I mean, to be honest, some people say that any thread is fine for Sashiko, and that's true. That's a pretty true statement. At the same time, by saying whatever, they are sort of destroying the culture of those people who decided to make this thread for the purpose of making Sashiko look better. I mean, if they know what the Sashiko thread is like and the difference between that, and as the result, if they decided to not to use it, that's perfectly fine with me. It's the matter of preference. But if they say that whatever thread is fine without even understanding what is the difference between that, then that's a quite big deal, I guess. So there are big difference between the thread we use. There are big difference for the thread needles we use. I may talk less today because I'm working on the actual pattern. I usually stitch this big one, and when I stitch like this, I usually don't think at all, but I may have to think about this one. So if I receive some specific good question, I will probably switch the Sashiko. See, I talk less. I talk less than usual, right? Thank you, D, for the introducing. Yes, I'm not gonna just say that we use specific thread and specific needles without explaining the stories behind it. I don't really share the information just because. Yeah, those stories makes it special and unique. And I just want you to know. I want you to know what is the difference. And there's a reason it's a little bit costly than the other thread or needle for that matter, because we try to protect that sustainability. Well, the goal for me is to really share what Sashiko is. Unfortunately, the Sashiko you can learn in English today is quite filtered. I'm not saying they're wrong. They're not wrong at all. Please don't get me wrong. The Sashiko you can get in English is not wrong at all, but it's insufficient. It's not explaining the whole picture of what Sashiko is. And my channel, my Instagram, everything is pretty much the resources to fill in the gap, what is missing. And it is not my goal to filter the people who can learn. For example, as much as I have to make my ends meet, I do not want to choose the people who wants to learn based on the financial situation. What they have is important. At the same time, I don't want it to be the case to. No, if somebody wants to learn, I want them to learn. So that's another reason I'm sharing a lot of videos for free here. Of course, it'd be great if you could take my classes or workshop, and it is probably the easiest way, the fastest route to get the core of Sashiko. But at the same time, it's not necessary. It's really not the. You can watch a lot of videos. You can probably learn like that. Sorry, let me know if the audio is not good. I am not paying attention to what I'm talking today. I probably have to switch the pattern, but I wrote that I will talk about the patterns today on my description, so I want to stitch this one. But there are reasons that I stitch only one pattern in live streaming, because I like to keep talking while I stitch. And since the English is my second language, talking, stitching, reading the comments, and focusing on the pattern is a little bit too much. Yeah, so we do have this pattern pre-printed fabric available now. We made it last year and then now finally came to the US. We do not have any stitches size pre-printed. We don't really do that. because that's not our preference. And I want you to, everybody here to learn how to transfer, how to prepare the fabric, not a fabric, yes, how to prepare the pattern on the fabric by yourself. There's a video for that. There's a video how to do it. And at the same time, there are some patterns that we do not want to do that. So after we learn how to do it, of course, there's going to be a choice and preference. We can skip it. We can skip a difficult or troublesome part. And this is one of the results for that. So I wanted to please, I mean, I keep receiving so many questions last 2 years. Please don't ask me what is the right size of the stitches. Like right, correct. It's so weird. But for some reason that a lot of people are discussing what is the right size of Sashiko stitching. My answer is that's not something I should tell you. I mean, I can tell you, but it really depends on what you want to do. It's like, you know, how much cheese do I put on my pizza? You know, well, as much as you want. Or even, you know, depends on what kind of pizza you're making. So, oops. By just, you know, even that one question, what is the best size, what is the answer, what is the ideal size of Sashiko stitching, it explains how filtered the information you can get in English, because that's not what I teach. I never teach that one should make one specific size of stitching, which probably you have heard, the rice grain size. Well, there are tons of kinds of rice, so what kind of rice are we talking about? Lots of info on the website. I guess I'll watch some of the videos and practice finishing. Yes, that's a good way to go. And if you need any help, then if you could consider the online class or in-person class, that'd be great. But at the same time, if you keep watching the videos, probably you don't need that much help. But by the way, I know why there are those information that what is the good size of stitches, or what one has to make those specific size stitches. It's extremely simple why there's so much information on those things. Because that's easier to teach, that's easier to sell, that's easier to make it in the market. Especially when I am in the business of creating the kit, like a practice materials supply kit with the tutorials. Like let's say that I have a written tutorials, and I don't have to do, like, I can, you know, mass produce those written tutorials and, you know, pattern fabric. It is almost 100 times easier to have one specific size as the answer, ask the stitchers to follow that, and define everything else as the wrong is the easiest way to commercialize it. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing wrong with that. And, you know, if my goal is to commercialize Sashiko, that's actually the brilliant way to do it. It's the best marketing strategies. The problem is, when they start saying that that's the whole picture of Sashiko, then it's going to be filtered. If they say that that's for the business, I'm perfectly fine with that. When they say that they know about Sashiko, nay. I really love your approach to teaching, Sashiko. It has made learning very relaxing to not to have to worry about perfection. Thank you. Yes. So I do not want you to worry too much to be perfect, but I want you to pursue the perfection though. Your own perfection, not mine, not somebody's. I don't want anybody to judge your stitches, or I don't want anybody to define your stitches. But at the same time, I want you to be able to pursue what is your right stitches size. That's probably another phrase I keep saying. Please do not embrace the imperfection. It is okay to be imperfect because it's, humans work, so it has to be imperfect. But please do not embrace it, because once we start embracing the imperfection, that's the end of the practice, because we stop practicing more. We stop learning. We start saying it's okay because it's imperfect. If we start saying that Sashiko can look uneven because that's the stitching with embracing the imperfection, that's the end of practice. That's a huge disrespect to the people who practice Sashiko more than, let's say, 30 years, 40 years, even 50 years, 60 years. They practice that much because they wanted to make it better. So I want to try to be perfect, but of course you cannot be perfect. As the result, we all embrace the perfection, not imperfection. I hope we shouldn't probably embrace anything for that matter. We accept, not embrace. Yeah, that's probably the most twisted way of enjoying Sashiko. Don't enjoy the imperfection. It's okay to accept the imperfection, but don't enjoy it. It is so frustrating to stitch this pattern without talking. Just a second, okay, I got a phone call. But I'm gonna keep stitching this one because that's what there's some of a pattern here. So there are a few patterns that I can stitch without even thinking, without even looking at it. And this is one of those, so I will stitch this one more tomorrow when I talk in Japanese. But again, English is a little bit difficult to talk while stitching. Okay. Yeah, hello Sharon, this pattern is pretty interesting. It's quite small, so you have to really understand what is the best rhythm for this. But once we get on the rhythm, it's kind of fun, but it probably requires more concentration. My mother Keiko made this one because she does not enjoy transferring these 9 patterns. She doesn't mind transferring many patterns, but she wanted to make it easier. And I totally understand it. She did a really good job to make this. It's the kind of best size to make the cushion cover, which I should receive it sometimes later from Japan, that they made it as a sample. You can find the photo somewhere on probably on my Instagram. You can find the sample, but This is a good size to make a cushion cover. And if you make a cushion cover, you don't have to worry about the wrong side, inside, the hiding side. You don't have to worry about the side I'm stitching on. So you don't have to do kasane, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to worry about it. I think it's gonna be a fun project. I don't have any plan to make this one for. I don't think I will make a cushion because I have already enough cushion cover. So I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I just wanted to make sure that I can stitch, and I wanted to enjoy it actually. So that's the reason I'm doing this. It's fun. It's really fun. But I don't know if I can stitch and talk better. I think that's my limitation. Well, for now. As much as I said that I don't want to focus on stitching, I think I can watch TV and stitch whatever pattern it is, but talking live, there are things that I shouldn't say, right? I have to be careful. I cannot just let myself go completely. Well, if I lose my mind, please let me know. That means that if you think that I go too crazy, please let me know. I don't want that to happen. So, what's Sushi? That's a little too much information. Okay, fine. That's the time I stop. So I will be offering the lecture or webinar as a part of the Slow Fiber Studio, organized by Yoshiko Wada sensei, Miss Yoshiko Wada. She's the pretty famous shibori teacher and artist. I think she's the one who introduced the word shibori to the English, and we kind of became friends. She calls me quite often, but anyway, so I will be talking about Sashiko she said it's Sashiko in English, Sashiko in the US, but I'm not gonna probably specify the Sashiko in the US. I will talk about Sashiko in English in general. Although I do not know anything about Sashiko outside of the US much. So I will of course talk about mainly Sashiko in the US in English. But that's gonna be the March 31st. She's in the PhD program in the Leicester, England. She has been discovering a lot of interesting things. It's very interesting. In order to study Sashiko or even borrow from academic perspective, they have to, of course, follow the kind of standard methodology of methodology of research, right? And she is following that with understanding the philosophy or even religions for that matter. And she's finding a lot of information which I knew it would exist, but which I did not know how detailed it could be. I knew that those information existed, but she's now backing it up with very much detail. So it's really fun to follow her, and we really should follow what she's gonna say in a very few years, I guess. She's gonna probably, I don't know how long she's gonna be in England, but what she's gonna find is very interesting to me, and as well as the other Sashiko people who study the Japanese Sashiko. Lisa, I really appreciate rocking emotion skill of stitching and not just doing one stitch at a time. Yeah, I cannot do the one stitch at a time. Some people say that they are doing Sashiko with one stitch, and it is perfectly fine to call it Sashiko, but I cannot do that. It's too slow. It's too much concentration, too much control, too much attention to the each stitches, too much me, too much I, too much mind. That's just too much. So I can probably, well, of course I can do it one stitch by one stitch, but that's really not my preference, and it's so sad that that might become the mainstream Sashiko. It's not the mainstream. I don't know any Sashiko artisans who makes one stitch by one stitch. In my area. I cannot speak on behalf of the other area, but as long as I am stitching, I don't really have, no, nobody actually. Nobody was stitching one stitch by one stitch. So, Sashiko is probably more than what you know. What was I gonna say? What was I talking about? Just a second, okay? Yeah, that's okay. One stitch by one stitch. And it's now I'm okay. Since I'm talking about what Sashiko is, one thing, please remember today, if you're new here, the Sashiko is not the name for the pattern. So some people say that this pattern I'm stitching right now is the Sashiko pattern. This is not the Sashiko pattern at all. This is the pattern so-called Asanoha pattern. It's not any Sashiko specific pattern. We use a lot of this pattern for Sashiko stitching, but it does not equal. The pattern doesn't have a name as a Sashiko pattern. It's different name for that. So that's one very unfortunate misunderstanding if that's the mainstream. The pattern is not the most important information. Wow, pattern is important, but it's not the core of what I want to learn. Just a second, okay? My needle is a little dull today. I don't know what's going on. Sorry, I'm gonna just switch the fabric. I feel a little strange today. Well, I know what's going on. I'm just stitching something I shouldn't be stitching online. That's the excuse. I know, that's a very big excuse, and I apologize for making excuse, but I probably should do what I feel comfortable, especially when I'm talking, because I really don't want to make a lot of... I don't know how many people here from the previous time, but today I might be a little more direct. So, or even a little bit... how do you say that? Less filtered. You might like it better, but at the same time, I try to, I would like to be honest. I don't have a brain to keep lying, so especially in different language. I don't lie because I cannot keep lying. But when I focus on stitching, I don't think I can filter any of my saying. So I kind of lose what I was saying, and as a result, I kind of don't remember what I said. 10 minutes ago. It's a little scary thing. And then those fear, the fact that I don't remember the things I said 10 minutes ago is going to transfer that tension to my hand. As the result, the needle started resisting it. And the more the needle resists, the more I have to focus on the fabric. As the result, I might say something stupid more often than I should. So if that kind of things happen, the best thing I can do is to just use the easier pattern, easier things I can do without thinking, like now. Phew. But I want to have those things too. Stitches kind of makes stitching as the outcome or result are very good indicator of how you're feeling. When you start getting used to that, the rhythm itself is gonna make you rhythm itself is gonna tell you how you are doing. So you can really use the running the stitch as the sort of measurement of how you're doing today. But the result itself is also a good indicator, so that's I want to be able to do those like Sashiko diagnostic, Sashiko checkups. What I think, yeah, Sashiko is not the name for the pattern. That's the whole point of today's talk. So Sashiko is not the name for the patterns. Everything else I said, please forget about it. I will rewatch this live streaming. I do believe that I do not edit it. That's my promise. I don't think I have said something scary, right? I hope I didn't. But if I find that something was really negative, or not a negative, like I want to be honest, but at the same time, it's not my intention to hurt somebody. So I want to balance that. It is really not my intention to hurt somebody specific. Although I probably have a lot of haters at this moment because I don't really, say only positive things. So I don't mind haters, but at the same time, I don't really hurt somebody specific. And as a result, I try to focus on what I say every time I talk. But today, because of the pattern, I was a little bit of, I think I was a little bit more, less filtered. I don't know. If you find it different, please let me know. I think I was okay, but the problem is that I don't know if I was okay or not. Yeah, so it's gonna be really fun to follow Wada Sensei for the future discovery. Sashiko. Well, I changed a lot of my approach to Sashiko. I shouldn't say a lot of, but I changed quite deep part of my approach to Sashiko after having a good discussion with her. And it's not that I was wrong, but I was not imagining deep enough when I introduced what Sashiko is. And she helped me to realize that possibility. And I would like to share that possibility with everybody who I can relate to. For that, I would like to keep what? Just a second. I have watched your programs and done some stitching myself. When folks see this, they ask me what it is, and I want to be fixed my answer. Sorry, I have watched your programs and done some stitching myself. When folks see this, they ask me what it is. I want to be respectful with my answer. If you are asking about how to call your stitching, either Sashiko or not Sashiko, please call it Sashiko if you want to. I mean, if you don't have to, of course, you can find your own name for that. But if you'd like to, please call it. I don't mind that. So, I talk about cultural appropriation quite often because I get a request to talk about it. But my answer to the cultural appropriation is quite simple. If you worry about it, don't worry about it. Cultural appropriation happens when if they think they know enough to talk about it. That's the first step of the issues. Like if you start saying that I know Sashiko enough so I can start teaching or telling what is Sashiko as the answer for others, that's probably the biggest mistake or biggest first step to the bigger issue, because I don't know the whole picture. I don't know what the almost legendary person in the Japanese textile is in PhD because she wants to learn more. So we as a Japanese do not know the whole picture of Sashiko. I can talk about what I know about Sashiko, but that doesn't mean that it's the whole picture. So that's the only thing. So if you think that you are learning what Sashiko is, you can of course explain what you're doing at Sashiko if you want to. If you want to call Sashiko, please do so, and then tell your friends, tell your companies that you're still learning, you're still trying to understand what it is. And if you could refer my website or my YouTube channel, they can learn from that too. So I just wanted to kind of see the whole picture. Sorry, not a whole picture because I cannot give you the whole picture, but I want to see what can be the outline of whole picture instead of following somebody's definition. Does that make sense? But don't let somebody define what it is. I know. We live in a very, 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 very filtered world where Alexa is gonna give us all the answers. So it is very much too much to ask to one person to keep learning. That's not the best advice or best request that I can make, because they don't want to keep learning. They just need the answer today and then they want to move on. So it does not really. There you go. What did I say? Hello, Miko-san. Hello. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, tell them go to my website. You're doing Sashiko that you're learning from me, from us, and then they can learn from that. I think I write it down somewhere, but the teaching doesn't end by this. My teaching is just the beginning of everything that I would like to share. Not the everything about Sashiko, but without, no, I don't think one can reach to the very enjoyment without learning one specific thing. I'm new to this and was referred to the website. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm trying. I am trying. I am trying. At some point, I think I kept saying that a few years ago, but I kind of consider Sashiko as the public domain. Public domain might be a little bit too much. Let me put it this way. I believe that nobody can or should own Sashiko. I shouldn't own it. Nobody should define what is the whole picture. Nobody should rule the Sashiko so that they can be, like, let's say, how do you call those things? Those person who makes everything. Come on. Oh. Dictator. There we go. Dictator. I don't want anybody to be dictator in Sashiko who decide what is right and what is wrong. So it is my really goal to share what Sashiko is, ideally for free, but I have to make a living as well, so you know, there's a little filter for that, which I wish I didn't have to, but at the same time it's kind of interesting. But there are 3 kind of students I have come so far, and one is the student, well, 4 types for that matter. I will stop stitching. It's really easy. Just let me write it down. I mean, everybody's like that. It's 4 types of student, right? Myself too. This is the time, and this is the money. So when we want to learn something, there's a person 1, 2, 3, 4. If I kind of number that, there's a first person who has money and time. Those are gonna learn anyway. They might need help and they might purchase the service by money, or they might spend a lot of time here. Those people will learn eventually without even anything. Those people who has time and those people who have time but they don't have money, they also try to learn by keep watching it if there is any resources. They keep watching or they keep reading because they have time. Some people watched all of my live streaming, and she is really, she has not taken any of my workshops. She probably has not purchased anything from my website, but she's very much on the same page, I feel like. And there are people who has money and also no time. This is somebody I can help. The third people is the people I can help because I kind of summarize all of my 30 years of experience in 3 to 6 hours. So if you have not like thousands of dollars, it's not that much of money, but if you have like a few $100 of surplus, this number 3 is the people who I can help. They don't have enough time, like they don't have 1,000 hours of stitching, yet they have surplus. The 4 who think that they don't have money and time, these people are probably most needy people. They ask me to teach, they ask me to offer the answer, but they don't research, they don't pay for the service. I used to focus on them because I was idealistic. Many people ask me to stop doing that because that was a bad idea. But everybody's busy today's world. Everybody's busy. I don't think anybody has 1,000 hours of just watching. I'm sorry, not anyone, because I know somebody, but not many people have that much time. So everybody's busy. Let's say everybody's busy, and we have different financial situation. They don't continue. Unfortunately, they do not continue. Once they get what they want to hear, once they kind of filter the information into the form that they would like to learn. So they know already what they want. They just need to learn something, and they probably do not continue. And without continuing stitching, I don't think that's kind of core of Sashiko. It's not that difficult to continue. I'm not asking to stitch 10,000 of hours, but it's kind of addictive when it comes to that. I'm not saying that not coming back is a bad thing. It's okay. It's a hobby, so we should move on. But well, I mean, people who don't have, ideally I would like to share Sashiko with everybody else on this 4 categories. But now I would like to focus on the third category as well as the second category. Hello from Japan. Oh, Shinobu-san, ありがとうございます。There's a Japanese saying that the free is you don't learn anything by free learning. No, free lesson. No, that's not quite true. I learn a lot by free items, but I have a reason behind that I share so many informations online. I don't issue certification, so if I start doing that, please stop me that. What do you think about machine created Sashiko? It really depends on what they are thinking. It's not about what they make. It's about how they approach it. For example, if you, let's say if you know what Sashiko is by watching my live streaming, and if you decided to use machine to make Sashiko, and if you decided to call that machine stitching Sashiko with introducing what Sashiko can be with hand stitching, then I think it's okay. I think it's perfectly fine. But if one start defining that Sashiko was done by machine without explaining the others, or if they start using the machine stitching as the excuse to not to learn something new, then that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So as long as one doesn't use the Sashiko machine to narrow it down, I am okay with that. I don't like it, to be honest. I mean, I don't like neither process or result to be like, it's my preference. But when I have to define if it's right or wrong, it's neither of those two. It can be okay, I guess. It's probably similar to there was a restaurant operated by only robots. You kind of choose the ingredients and then robot is gonna mix it, and you just get the plate, and then the belt those assemble lines gonna give it to you without human touching it. If you don't mind that, that's probably okay, but I prefer somebody cooking. I mean, I understand some people really prefer no hand because of the sanitation issues or other concerns. But at the same time, I personally value the hand work, no matter how dirty their chef's hand could be in terms of the germs. I hope their hands are not that dirty, but it really depends on what they value. So it is okay to use the sewing machine for Sashiko, and there's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes I want them to explain what Sashiko can be. But as long as I know that, like, seeing this Sashiko machine, hand stitching may be easier and faster for them. And I don't have to, bring a lot of sewing machine everywhere, set it up. I mean, if I have that big space, studio or something, that I can always put that big sewing machine at the corner or one part of the studio, yeah, that would be fun to have it. But I don't have even space to put the regular sewing machine on my table, so it's kind of impossible to even think about it. I wonder if the English equivalent is "you should have skin in the game." Ooh, thank you so much for teaching me that new saying. Look, let me read that through. You should have skin in the game. You have to make some commitment or take some risk to learn. Huh. Okay, I mean that's a new learning. Thank you, Sharon. You should have skin. Yeah, that's probably the equivalent. But at the same time, I don't want anybody to take a risk. I don't want anybody to make a big commitment. But what I need is just pretty much 6 hours and a little bit of trust. Or, let's say, year amount of your time, just keep watching what I do every week-ish. If one keep watching my live streaming, let's say for a year, and then if they do not get what I'm doing, then it might be a time for them to take my class. But I think they can get what, like, I am not hiding anything, right? This is the raw version of what I'm doing. I am not hiding anything, so by watching, you can learn something. Then you may wonder what you can learn by, online class or in person. Like, everybody has a different hand, everybody has a different muscle memory. I am there to adjust it for you. So I'm not a teacher, I'm just a helper who support a child to ride a bicycle. So, well, I mean, I now consider myself teacher, but it was a little bit strange when I started teaching, because I was not sure what I was teaching, to be honest. I was sure what I was teaching, sorry. I was sure what I was teaching, but I wasn't sure what is the request they have. It's too ordinary for me. So I wasn't sure what I was what was the expectation for me to teach. Just a second. I suppose it is similar to hand quilting quilt. What that meant over machine quilting, the history behind those hand stitches. Yes, I don't want to go inside of that hand quilting versus machine quilting, because that's probably more active than the hand stitching Sashiko and machine stitching Sashiko. And I don't want to say which is my preference, because I respect the quilting culture in both ways. But I do not hate, or I do not find it disrespectful. I hope this is the answer for your question, but yes, since I'm I'm doing the hand stitching, hand Sashiko all the time, some people think that I do not like that, like machine Sashiko, or I'm almost like fighting back to that phenomena or trend, I am not fighting. It's not my preference, and probably I shouldn't even say it's not my preference because I've done a little bit, only a few times, so I kind of don't know the whole picture. So I probably don't know enough to even dislike it. But that's my standing point. And it is perfectly fine for them to call it Sashiko if they want to, but I want them to keep learning as well. If there is a Sashiko artist who used the only Sashiko sewing machine, and if they, if they say that they know whole picture of Sashiko without doing hand stitching, then I have to probably stand up, saying what's going on. But I have never seen such a people at this moment, so. Just a second. What did I do? So yeah, I hope it's the answer for that question. I want them, actually, to be honest, I want them to enjoy the hand stitching because the most delicious part of the Sashiko is in the hand stitching, not making patterns. I wouldn't say I don't care about making patterns, but that's not the reason I stitch this much. If I want to just get the beautiful pattern, I don't have to do hand stitching. I think the most important part of Sashiko exists in the hand stitching, in my opinion. I'm curious, Atsushi, do you ever use other thread colors in your work? Yes and no. Yes, I have it. So I have about I have tons of colors, 15 colors of Sashiko thread plus 20 colors of natural dyes, 5 variegated colors, and I have like a library of colorful thread. But I just feel weird. And there's nothing wrong with using color. My mother used all colors, and you can find that photos on my Instagram. But the reason I use only white is because that's how I was trained, I guess. So I use this analogy quite often, but it's like pineapple on the pizza. Like it's not wrong, but I am not used to putting the pineapple on the pizza. I feel a little bit uneasy when I eat that. So it's not that I don't use it. I cannot use the other colors. Please use the different colors. I don't trust myself to have a good choice in terms of color. I mean, color requires a lot of experience and thinking, don't you think? Like, what kind of color should I use here? What is the best combination of the color for this fabric, for this pattern? What is the good thing? It's too creative for me. It's too creative. It's too artistic for me. And if I wanna be artist, if my goal is to be the artist, I really have to overcome this uncomfortableness, because color is very important in the definition of art, I guess. It's in my understanding. But since outcome is not so important to me. I think color is not my first thing to worry about. So, by the way, I'm sorry. If you're from any places that a pineapple on the pizza is the normal choice, I am sorry. It's just my personal preference. I do respect that, and I know there are many people who like pineapple on the pizza. So, probably another example is like a mac shake. No, the French fry dipping in the mac shake. No, the milkshake. There we go. There's a way to eat French fries dipping in the mac shake, right? Have you done that? I did not understand that for a long time, especially in my first year in the US, in my first college year. I really did not understand it, but you made me kind of feel very uncomfortable eating salty and milkshake in my mouth, hot and cold. That was just very strange. After so many years living in the US, that's my favorite now. So it can change, but at the same time, for Sashiko, since I have so many years of experience in one specific way, I just feel comfortable in one way specific. In my house, a meal cooked from scratch or something hands-on is said to have love as the main ingredient. We believe if you make it by hand, you have put your heart in it. Yes, that's a really understandable, and I feel the same way. You know, something more like spiritual, more animism, more something invisible. But for the other people, that can be something kind of eccentric or unrealistic, inefficient. It's not technological thing. The meal cooked by iPhone, I don't know if iPhone can make some sandwiches or something, but is not as good as the mother's food, or even, I'm sorry, I don't know why I said mother, like the parents' food. And so it is the preference, and at the same time, it is important for us, not me, for us, you and I, to speak up about the importance of handmade, because that is also important. That define us human, so it shouldn't be one side only. I hope that both sides survives, even if the machine cooks become the mainstream. I want somebody to be able to speak up the importance of handmade. And I don't have to worry about it, because that's, there's so many people who are in that field. I don't think I have to worry about losing the handmade, homemade cooking, because there will be always somebody there in this world. It doesn't have to be me, right? It doesn't have to be me. There are many people who are doing that. Many people speaking up the importance of that. So I don't have to worry about that. And I thought I didn't have to worry about Sashiko neither, but unfortunately, I may be one of very few who can do that. I wouldn't say I'm the only one, because there are many Sashiko Japanese artisans now coming up. But if I do not speak up about another spectrum, another side of the Sashiko stories, some of these stories may be buried in the history. It is almost impossible to dig it out once it's gone. So I think that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to speak up so that people after us can decide what they want. What is what they want. So I'm not denying anybody, Sashiko. I'm not denying anything. So my phrase is very simple, right? Sashiko in English is not wrong, but it's insufficient. Oh. Hello, Sandy. While loop. Please go to my website and then type the question while loop. You'll find the article. I used to explain that, but it's gonna take some time, and I don't want somebody to hear that every time I talk, so I have that answer ready. I'll go to my website and then type while loop. I like that I heart style. Sharon, I don't know that word. I like that. I like that what? Sorry. See, this is a good time stitching. Has been 1 hour already. See, you don't feel like 1 hour, right? At least I don't. This can be, Sashiko takes a long time because it's handmade, hand stitched, so of course it takes a long time. But once we start talking and stitching simultaneously, it does not become somebody's burden. Some people say that it's crazy, it's insane to stitch so many hours. But we talk. It's not crazy to talk every day to the family for 1 hour. So 365 hours per year. Well, we can stitch while talking. Oh, thank you. I like that. Thank you so much. Yes, I did not see the name. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. God, I have to check the. Sorry, that was my bad. So yeah, stitching this much is not gonna be a big problem. And if you are here from the beginning, you probably see a lot of difference between me now and the 1 hour ago. This is the reason I mainly stitch this in the live streaming. I am remembering everything I'm saying right now, so it's good. It's good that I can do this. The beginning of this live streaming was a little bit uneasy because of the patterns I was stitching. It really changed a lot of difference. It was scary. But yeah, I hope you can learn that Sashiko is maybe more than what you know. And you may ask, like, what is the things I don't know? And that's the answer is here. Do I have it? Yeah, color may be my next challenge. I don't know. Although I said it's my next challenge, I don't know if I'm gonna challenge. I used to try to use as many colors as I could, even on the live streaming. But I don't know. I really don't feel comfortable now. It's not my first choice. Especially after COVID. I don't know what changed, but I feel a lot easier in white. That's a very good way. That's a good question, good approach to think about what's going on with me. Wow. Okay. Whew, it's another great hours. Thank you so much for stitching with me. I will stop stitching after this long thread. I guess. I will probably stop stitching if I can. And I will share the front side of this as well as the fabric I was stitching in the beginning. And the goal is to keep having this live streaming almost every Thursday so that we can keep it like a routine. Every Thursday you have time to stitch together online. That will be like a time or space for us to be together. That's another goal I would like to reach to throughout Sashiko. So if you're new, please bring some of your stitching project next time. You can bring some questions, but I probably don't answer the questions regarding how to. And also some questions that I already answered several times, I will probably not only navigate you to the answer, not explaining here. So but the fact that we can spend time together is most important. I'm getting sleepy, so that's another reason I stopped talking more. I'm like a little child for them. When it comes to night, I can talk, I can stitch until the last moment, and then I kind of, my battery dies at some point. Stop moving, stop talking. It's so bulky. It's gonna be done probably sometime this month, I think. This is the curtain for my shelf that I plan to hide a lot of boxes underneath. I will share how I install it after I finish, but I did not even, finish the curtain itself. So, and I I always procrastinate to use sewing machine. I kind of run away from that. There's a tons of fabric next to me piled up for the sewing project, which I can, but I'm not good at. So, well. That's not the most fun part of what I'm doing. Like, if I were, like, I don't know when, and I don't know if even if it's gonna be, realistic. But if I can have an assistant, that assistant may have to use sewing machine a lot. That's using sewing machine is not. I can. I made a Sashiko mask so many times, so you can even find me using the sewing machine on YouTube. That's probably not. So. All right. I hope, well, it's nice time. It's a time, good time. I hope you had fun today as well. I'll just come to the show. I will show the whole picture of this. Oh, just a second. Just a second. This is done. And then okay, there we go. Thank you so much for thank you so much for watching the Sashiko Live Streaming. I will finish it soon. If you're watching this as the archive, please leave the comments if you have any requests or questions for me to answer. In the next live streaming, I may be able to bring your requests or questions to talk about. Otherwise, I will think about something to talk about. Yes, almost every Thursday night, and I do not plan to have any workshop in this spring or even summer for that matter. There's one possible workshop in July, but I tried to make myself slow down. I need time to stitch anyway, so I'm not gonna make myself busy for this summer. I have to balance, like I have to really balance for myself to stitch as well. So it's gonna be almost all Thursday. And I probably showed you last time, but this is the, can you see that? This is the, so this is not the, this is, so top is gonna be the, well, the top, no, the first top, yeah, top part is the pattern I'm estimating. It's quite long. Some of them are unfinished. Anyway, you can find all of those stitching on this live streaming because I only did this pattern in the live streaming, so you probably can see the whole process throughout the live streaming. And what's going on? You just stop. It should be okay. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I will come back on next Thursday. But it's not stopped. Should be okay, right? Okay, I'll come back. Thank you so much for stitching with me and have a good night. Have a good weekend too. Bye bye.